Raxar, the commander of the enemy fleet, sat in the war room, staring at the massive screen in front of him. It was an ordinary day, or so he thought. His fleet had been patrolling the outer edge of enemy space, keeping an eye on the unimportant sectors. But now, something strange appeared on his radar. A small dot, barely visible. But it was moving fast, heading right toward the heart of enemy territory. At first, Raxar thought it might just be a drifting asteroid or a piece of debris from a recent battle. That wouldn't be uncommon. But then, the scanner pinged. A signal. A signal no one expected. "Captain Lyra, what is this?" Raxar asked his second-in-command, his voice sharp. Lyra, a veteran officer with years of experience, tapped her console. "It's a ship, sir, but it's unlike anything we've seen before. Its energy readings are faint, almost non-existent." That got Raxar's attention. He knew his fleet's sensors were among the best in the galaxy. If they couldn't pick up the ship clearly, it could only mean one thing. The vessel was using advanced technology to mask its presence. Raxar had heard rumors of such technology, used by a race he had never thought to encounter. Humans. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The humans were known to be a primitive species, only recently discovering space travel. No one had seriously thought of them as a threat. But if this was a human ship, it meant they had come much further than anyone had expected. "Is there any sign of other ships?" Raxar asked. "No, sir. Just this one," Lyra replied, her voice filled with unease. "Where is it headed?" Raxar inquired. "Right toward us," Lyra answered, her fingers flying over her console. "At a steady pace, no signs of turning back. It seems to be on a direct course for the heart of our space." Raxar's mind raced. The lone human ship, heading straight into enemy-controlled territory. This didn't make sense. But there was no time to waste on questions. They had to be prepared. "Prepare the fleet," Raxar ordered. "Set the defensive shields at full power. I want every ship on high alert. We don't know what we're dealing with here." The crew scrambled into action. Raxar could see the tension spreading across the bridge. Every officer, every technician, was aware that something unusual was happening. His fleet had been designed to face much larger threats. But this was different. He paced back and forth, his eyes constantly flicking to the screen where the human ship's position was being tracked. It was still far off in the distance, but the closer it got, the more Raxar began to feel something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. The human ship wasn't large, not by the standards of the enemy fleet. It was a small, unremarkable vessel, probably no bigger than a scout ship. But it was fast. Too fast. It zipped through space at a speed that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. The enemy's sensors couldn't lock onto it properly, and every time they tried, the ship would shift position, evading detection. "What kind of ship is this?" Raxar muttered to himself. "It's too fast, too quiet." His mind raced through possibilities. Could this be some kind of new weapon? A new human strategy? Or was it simply a ship trying to get lost in the vastness of space, hoping no one would notice? "Sir, we've tried everything," Lyra said, her voice tense. "The ship is still too far out for a proper scan. But the signal is consistent. It's not a glitch. It's real." Raxar clenched his fists. There was something off about this whole situation. A human ship, this deep into enemy space, without any support. This wasn't how humans operated. It didn't make sense. It was almost as if they were deliberately trying to provoke him. "Send a warning signal," Raxar said. "Let them know they're entering dangerous territory." But deep down, he knew this was just the beginning. Whatever was happening, it was not going to be easy. The feeling of unease grew heavier in his chest. He had fought many battles before, but this was different. The human ship was getting closer. The clock was ticking, and Raxar could feel the weight of what was about to happen. He wasn't sure what to expect, but he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never be the same after today. Captain Cole stood at the front of the bridge, watching the view screen as the stars sped by. The hum of the engines filled the quiet room, and his crew moved with practiced precision. It was just another day in space, or so it seemed. He had a small crew aboard the ship, a handful of soldiers, technicians, and scientists, and they were on a routine mission to test some new stealth technology. Nothing major, just another step in humanity's progress. But now, everything had changed. "Captain, we've received a transmission from command," Lieutenant Anna said, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the room. "There's a problem." Cole turned toward her. "What kind of problem?" "The enemy has picked up our ship on their sensors," Anna replied, her fingers flying over her console. "We thought our cloaking tech would keep us hidden, but their scanners are too advanced. They know we're here." Cole frowned. This was not supposed to happen. The stealth system was one of humanity's greatest achievements, designed to make their ships invisible to enemy sensors. But clearly, it wasn't perfect. They had been counting on the element of surprise, and now it was gone. "How much time do we have?" Cole asked, keeping his voice calm despite the rising tension in his chest. "We're still several hours away from their main fleet," Anna said. "But if they decide to move quickly, they could be on us within minutes." Cole nodded. He had prepared for a situation like this, but that didn't make it any easier. The enemy fleet was large, much larger than his small warship. If they caught him, there would be no escape. His crew wasn't ready for a full-on battle. They were only testing the technology. But Cole wasn't about to let his crew go down without a fight. "We need to get out of their scanning range," Cole said. "Lieutenant, adjust our course. Let's try to get behind the asteroid field in Sector 4. Maybe we can lose them there." Anna quickly adjusted the ship's course. The small vessel turned smoothly, heading toward the asteroid field. The crew went silent, watching the view screen as the field of rocks and dust grew closer. Cole paced the room, thinking the enemy wasn't likely to ignore a ship moving into their territory, especially with the kind of stealth technology they had. It wasn't a huge ship, but it was well-armed and well-equipped for a fight. If it came to that, Cole would make sure his crew fought to the last. But he hoped it wouldn't come to that. A soft beep sounded from Anna's console. She looked up, her expression tight with concern. "Captain, their fleet is starting to move. They're heading in our direction." Cole's heart skipped a beat. He had hoped for more time. The enemy had clearly detected their presence, and now they were coming. "Are they closing in on us?" he asked. Anna glanced at the readout. "Yes, they've adjusted their course. At this rate, they'll be in range in less than an hour." Cole took a deep breath. There wasn't much time left to come up with a plan. He quickly turned to his crew. "All right, listen up," he said, his voice steady. "We're not going to run from them. We don't have the luxury of being able to hide anymore. We need to be ready. We'll hold our ground and make them think twice about attacking us." The crew looked at each other, a mix of fear and determination in their eyes. The enemy was coming, and they had no idea what kind of force they were up against. But they trusted Cole. They had trained for moments like this. "We'll power up the weapons," Cole continued. "But our main goal is to stay out of their firing range as long as possible. I want everyone ready for anything. If it comes to a fight, we'll give them everything we've got." The crew nodded, each person silently preparing for what was to come. Cole could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He had no idea what kind of threat the enemy fleet posed, but he knew this: humans had never been known to back down from a challenge. The ship moved through the asteroid field, weaving between the massive rocks as they closed in on the enemy. Cole's mind raced with possibilities. Could they survive? Could they hold off the enemy long enough for reinforcements to arrive? The unknown enemy was getting closer. Every second counted. "Captain," Anna said again, her voice filled with urgency. "The enemy has picked up our heat signature. They know we're in the asteroid field." Cole clenched his fists. This was it, the moment of truth. They would have to fight. He didn't know what would happen next, But one thing was certain. Humanity was about to make a statement. The bridge of Raxar's flagship was filled with the sounds of urgency. Officers ran from console to console, their fingers moving quickly as they tracked the human ship's movements. It had only been a few minutes since they detected the vessel, but already it was causing chaos in the fleet. Raxar could feel the tension in the air, thick and heavy, as his officers scrambled to make sense of what was happening. "Sir, we've confirmed it," one of the officers said, his voice shaking. "It's definitely a human ship. The signal matches known patterns of their technology." Raxar's stomach tightened. The humans? Here? He couldn't believe it. A single human warship, so deep within enemy space, was something he had never anticipated. But now, as the ship's movements continued to defy all expectations, he began to realize the situation was much worse than he'd imagined. "Are they alone?" Raxar demanded, his voice low but sharp. "No, sir," another officer responded, his eyes wide with fear. "There's no sign of other ships. But their ship is moving fast. Too fast. It doesn't make sense." "Explain," Raxar pressed. "Their ship. It's outmaneuvering our sensors. We can't lock onto it properly. It keeps slipping through our detection systems," the officer explained. "It's as if they've developed a technology we've never seen before." Raxar turned away from the officer, his mind racing. He had faced countless enemies in his career, but never the humans. Everyone knew they were primitive, but now here was proof that their technology had far exceeded expectations. "What are they doing?" Raxar asked, more to himself than anyone else. "Why would they send a single ship into the heart of our territory?" "They're moving toward us," the officer answered. "They're getting closer, and they're not stopping." Raxar clenched his fists. He had no answers, only questions. The human ship's movements were erratic, fast, and unpredictable. It was as if the humans were trying to provoke him. But why? Was it a test? A trap? "Sir, we've sent them a warning," another officer said. "We've told them to turn back, but they're not responding." Raxar's frustration boiled over. How dare they ignore his fleet's warnings? He slammed his fist against the console, making the room go silent for a moment. "They don't fear us," Raxar muttered, his voice cold. "And that's what scares me the most." For the first time in a long while, Raxar felt doubt creep into his mind. He had always believed that his fleet was invincible, that nothing could stand in their way. But this human ship was different. It was small, but fast. It could slip past their defenses without a trace. And if it was part of something bigger, something more dangerous, it could be the beginning of something none of them were prepared for. The thought of an entire human fleet, capable of hiding in plain sight and striking with unexpected force, was enough to send a chill down his spine. Raxar knew that if this was just one human ship, the rest of humanity might be far more dangerous than anyone had realized. The officers around him were beginning to panic. Some suggested launching a full assault on the human ship, while others argued they should continue to wait and gather more information. But the uncertainty was spreading fast. If they were wrong about this, they could make a mistake that would cost them dearly. "Bring up the fleet's full range of weapons," Raxar ordered. "We need to be ready for whatever comes next." But deep down, Raxar couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too late. Meanwhile, aboard the human ship, Captain Cole stood with his arms crossed, watching his crew work. His expression was calm, but inside, his mind was racing. The enemy was coming. They had detected the ship. And now, they were preparing for a fight. "Lieutenant, status on the enemy fleet?" Cole asked, his voice steady despite the tension building around him. "Their ships are moving into position," Lieutenant Anna responded. "They've begun charging weapons." Cole nodded. It was no surprise. They had expected this. The enemy would try to intimidate them, overwhelm them with sheer numbers. But Cole wasn't worried. His crew had trained for this moment. They had tested the stealth technology for months, and now it was time to see if it could hold up under pressure. "Prepare the weapons systems," Cole said. "But don't engage unless they fire first. We don't want to escalate this unless we have to." His crew nodded, getting into position. They were ready. They had no intention of backing down. They were human, and they had something the enemy had underestimated: the will to fight. As the enemy fleet closed in, Raxor stared at the view screen, trying to calculate his next move. He didn't know who this human ship belonged to or what it was capable of, but one thing was clear: the humans had shown up, and they weren't going away anytime soon. The silence in the bridge was deafening as Raxor stood before the massive screen, watching the small human ship inch closer to his fleet. His mind raced, his thoughts a blur. The enemy was coming. There was no more time for questions. There was only action. "Sir, they're within firing range," the officer at the communications console called out, his voice tense. "Their ship is still on course. No signs of turning back." Raxor gritted his teeth. It had come to this. His entire fleet, prepared for the unexpected, was now about to face a single human warship. But it wasn't just any warship. It was a ship that had slipped past every detection system, outmaneuvered their tracking, and now it was heading straight for them. "Target their ship," Raxor ordered. "Bring up the energy readings. If they try anything, we fire first." The officers began inputting commands, their fingers flying over the consoles. The screens filled with information, but Raxor couldn't focus on the numbers. He had seen them all before. Nothing prepared him for this. Nothing prepared him for the fear that gnawed at his insides. The human ship wasn't supposed to be here. And yet it was. "Sir, their ship, it's moving again," the officer at the radar station reported. Raxor turned toward him, eyes narrowing. "What do you mean moving again?" The officer hesitated, then spoke in a trembling voice. It's moving faster. Much faster than before. Their speed is increasing." Raxor's heart skipped a beat. His fingers clenched into fists. It was impossible. The human ship should have been struggling to maintain its speed. But instead, it was accelerating at a rate that shouldn't have been possible for such a small craft. "Track their movement. I want to know exactly where they're going," Raxor ordered. Meanwhile, aboard the human warship, Captain Cole stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching his crew move efficiently at their stations. The tension in the room was thick, but Cole remained calm. He had trained for moments like this. The enemy had been quick to react, but they didn't know what was coming. "Lieutenant, how are we doing?" Cole asked, his eyes never leaving the screen. "All systems are online, Captain," Lieutenant Anna replied. "Weapons are powered up. We can hold off their fleet if necessary, but I don't want to start a fight unless we have to." "Understood," Cole said. "We're not here to provoke them. We just want to get out of this without unnecessary casualties. Keep tracking their movements." The human ship continued to zip through space, the asteroid field offering some cover. But now, with the enemy fleet closing in, Cole knew it was only a matter of time before they would have to fight back. "Captain, the enemy is closing in fast," Anna warned. "They're preparing to fire." Cole didn't flinch. He had expected this. The moment they'd been discovered, he knew the enemy would try to break them apart. But they had something the enemy didn't. Surprise. "Activate evasive maneuvers," Cole ordered. "Take us behind that asteroid. Don't give them a clear shot." The ship shifted course, narrowly dodging a barrage of incoming fire. Raxor's fleet was quick, but they were used to predictable targets. The human ship wasn't predictable. It moved like a ghost through the debris of the asteroid field, always staying one step ahead of the enemy. Raxor watched, his fists clenched. His fleet's weapons hit nothing but empty space as the human ship danced between asteroids, easily evading their attacks. It was maddening. For a moment, Raxor wondered if he was facing some kind of advanced weaponry, something far beyond what the humans should be capable of. "Recalibrate targeting systems," Raxor barked. "We need to hit them before they get any closer." But it was already too late. The human ship darted out from behind the asteroid field, reappearing in a completely different position. The enemy fleet had no time to react. In a flash, the human ship released a barrage of powerful energy blasts, striking Raxar's flagship. The blast hit the shields with a force that shook the entire vessel. Raxar's eyes widened in disbelief. The shields held, but barely. This was no simple attack. It was powerful, precise, and calculated. "Return fire," Raxar roared. "Fire everything we have." But as the enemy fleet fired their weapons, the human ship once again vanished, retreating into the shadows of the asteroid field. The enemy's fire missed entirely. Frustration boiled over in Raxar's chest. The human ship wasn't just fighting. It was playing with them, toying with their power. It was using their fear to its advantage. Inside the human ship, Captain Cole's expression remained steady. He knew the enemy was going to come after them with everything they had. But he was ready. His crew was ready. The battle had only just begun, and the enemy would soon learn that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. "Keep moving," Cole said calmly. "We've got them right where we want them." The battle had reached a tense standstill. Raxar's fleet, once confident and powerful, was now being outmaneuvered by the small human warship. It darted in and out of the asteroid field, always staying one step ahead. The enemy's weapons fired constantly, but every shot missed. The human ship seemed to know exactly where to go, and it was driving Raxar's crew mad. "We've lost another ship," an officer shouted, his voice filled with panic. Raxar's fists tightened around the edge of his command chair. He couldn't believe what was happening. A single human ship was picking apart his fleet. This wasn't supposed to be possible. How were they doing it? "Recalculate," Raxar ordered, trying to steady himself. "We need a better plan." The enemy ship had stopped firing for a moment, but it wasn't retreating. Instead, it was holding its ground, waiting. Raxar knew that the humans were calculating their next move, just as he was. The time for thinking was over. He needed to act quickly. Meanwhile, on the human warship, Captain Cole was watching the view screen with a cool, focused expression. The battle was going exactly as he planned. The enemy had underestimated them, and now they were paying the price. "Lieutenant Anna, what's their status?" Cole asked, his eyes never leaving the screen. Anna was focused, her fingers flying over the console. "They're still trying to target us, Captain. Their weapons are charging again, but they're struggling. They can't track us properly in the asteroid field." Cole nodded. The asteroid field was their best weapon right now. The enemy fleet was large, but slow. The human ship, with its speed and stealth technology, could move quickly and stay hidden. But Cole knew they couldn't keep this up forever. They needed to deal a real blow to the enemy. "Prepare the main cannon," Cole said. "We're going to hit them where it hurts." The crew moved with precision, getting the weapons ready. Cole had studied the enemy's ship designs. He knew where their weak points were, and he wasn't about to waste time. He would strike hard and fast. "Captain," Anna said, her voice tight with urgency, "the enemy is changing course. They're coming toward us. It looks like they're trying to get into position to launch a full assault." "Not if I can help it," Cole muttered under his breath. "All hands, brace for impact. Prepare to fire on my mark." The enemy ships were closing in, their weapons charging with energy. They were trying to surround the human ship, to trap it in a corner where it wouldn't be able to escape. Raxar's plan was clear. If they could catch the human ship, they could destroy it. But Raxar didn't know what Cole had up his sleeve. "Fire," Cole commanded. The main cannon of the human warship fired a powerful energy blast, hitting one of the enemy ships directly. The blast ripped through the shields, striking deep into the hull. The ship exploded in a flash of light and debris, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Raxar's eyes widened in disbelief. "They destroyed one of our ships with a single shot." It wasn't just any shot. It was a perfectly timed, perfectly aimed strike. The human ship had waited until the moment was right, and then it delivered the first real blow to the enemy fleet. "Captain," Anna said, her voice filled with excitement, "they're in disarray. The fleet is starting to break formation." Raxar could feel his control slipping. The human ship had made a clear statement. It wasn't going to back down. It wasn't afraid. And now, with the enemy fleet in disarray, the humans had the upper hand. The human warship didn't hesitate. It fired again, this time hitting another enemy ship with devastating accuracy. The second ship exploded, its wreckage spinning off into space. The remaining enemy ships tried to regroup, but it was too late. The humans had already taken the initiative. And now Raxar's fleet was scattered, unsure of what to do next. "We're losing control," one of Raxar's officers said, panic creeping into his voice. "We've already lost 2 ships. We can't keep up with their movements." Raxar's chest tightened. He had never been in a situation like this before. He had always been the one in control, the one who called the shots. But now, the humans were the ones dictating the pace of the battle. "Retreat," Raxar ordered sharply. "We're pulling back. We need to regroup and rethink our strategy." The word sent shockwaves through the bridge. Retreat. The enemy had forced them into a position where retreat was their only option. As Raxar's fleet began to withdraw, Cole watched from the human warship's bridge. His expression was calm, but inside, his heart was racing. They had won the first round, but he knew that the enemy wasn't done yet. They would regroup, they would come back, and when they did, the humans would be ready. "Prepare for the next wave," Cole said quietly, his eyes scanning the battlefield. "This isn't over yet." Raxar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the retreating human warship. His hands were clenched into fists, his jaw tight with frustration. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had destroyed 2 of his ships and forced his entire fleet into retreat. It was unheard of. It was a blow to his pride, and he couldn't let it stand. "Status report." Raxar barked, his voice sharp. The officers scrambled to respond. The damage to the fleet was significant, but not catastrophic. 2 ships had been lost, but the rest of the fleet was still intact, albeit scattered. There was a chance to regroup, to try again. And this time, Raxar swore, he would not fail. "We've lost 2 ships, sir," an officer reported. "The remaining fleet is ready to engage. But the human ship is unpredictable. It keeps slipping away." Raxar's eyes narrowed. He had never dealt with an enemy like this before. The humans were different. Their tactics, their speed, and their technology were unlike anything he had encountered. But he wasn't about to give up. Not now. Not when victory was so close. "Regroup the fleet," Raxar ordered. "We'll try again. This time, we'll take them down." Meanwhile, aboard the human warship, Captain Cole was surveying the damage. The battle had been hard, but they had come out on top, for now. The enemy had retreated, but Cole knew better than to think the fight was over. The enemy fleet would be back, and they would be angrier, more determined. "Lieutenant Anna, any sign of the enemy?" Cole asked, his voice calm but focused. Anna was at her station, her eyes scanning the sensors. "They've pulled back. It looks like they're regrouping. But we've only bought ourselves a little time. They'll come at us again." Cole nodded. He had expected this. The enemy wasn't going to let a few losses stop them. But the human ship had something the enemy didn't: unpredictability. They would keep the enemy guessing, always staying one step ahead. "Prepare the ship for another round," Cole said, his voice steady. "We'll stay hidden in the asteroid field. If they come after us, we'll make them regret it." The crews sprang into action, their movements smooth and efficient. The human ship was a well-oiled machine, and Cole trusted every member of his crew. They had trained for this. They were ready. Minutes passed, and the tension in the air grew thicker. The silence was deafening as the crew waited for the next move. They all knew the enemy would come. But how? From where? Then, the sensors went off. "Captain, incoming," Anna shouted. "The enemy fleet is coming back. They're coming in fast." Cole's eyes hardened. It was time. The enemy had regrouped, and now they were coming for blood. "All hands, brace for impact," Cole commanded. "Prepare to engage." The human ship moved swiftly, slipping through the asteroid field, using its speed and agility to stay hidden from the enemy fleet. The enemy ships were closing in, but they didn't know where to look. The human ship was too fast, too unpredictable. "Target their lead ship," Cole said, his voice calm but full of intent. "We take down their leader, and the rest will fall apart." Anna quickly relayed the order to the weapons crew. The human ship's cannons charged up, their energy humming in the air. The lead enemy ship, larger and slower than the rest, was unaware of the danger until it was too late. "Fire," Cole shouted. The blast shot out with a flash, hitting the lead enemy ship square in the center. The impact was devastating. The ship's shields buckled, and then the hull exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending debris flying in all directions. "Target locked on their second ship," Anna called out. "They're trying to regroup, Captain." "Fire again," Cole said, his voice unwavering. The human ship fired once more, and the second enemy ship was hit with precision. Another explosion rocked the battlefield. The remaining enemy ships scrambled to adjust, but it was too late. The human warship was already on the move, darting between asteroids, staying out of their line of fire. On the enemy flagship, Raxar was watching in horror as his fleet crumbled. The humans had destroyed 2 more ships, and his fleet was in disarray. The human ship wasn't just surviving, it was dominating. Raxar had underestimated them, and now it seemed like there was no way to win. "Captain," an officer cried, "they've destroyed 2 more of our ships. What do we do now?" Raxar's mind raced. He had to make a decision, and fast. The enemy was breaking his fleet apart, and if they didn't act quickly, they would be completely defeated. "Retreat again," Raxar ordered, his voice filled with frustration. "We have no choice. We need to regroup and rethink our strategy." But deep inside, Raxar knew that the humans had changed everything. They had shifted the balance of power, and no matter what happened next, the war was never going to be the same again. The battle had reached its breaking point. Raxar's fleet was battered and broken, with only a handful of ships remaining. His forces had been outmatched by the small human warship, and now, with the human ship slipping away again, Raxar's mind raced. It was clear, the humans were no longer just a threat. They were a force to be reckoned with. On the human warship, Captain Cole stood before the view screen, watching the enemy fleet retreat. They had won. They had made it out alive. And more than that, they had forced the enemy to retreat twice. But Cole knew that this wasn't the end. The enemy would come back again. They had to be ready. "Lieutenant Anna," Cole said, his voice calm but focused. "Any signs of movement from the enemy?" Anna was at her station, her eyes scanning the sensors. "They're retreating, Captain. But they're not giving up. They're pulling back, probably to regroup. They've lost too many ships." Cole nodded. He had expected this. The enemy fleet was strong, but it had been thrown off balance by the humans' tactics. Now, it was only a matter of time before they would try again. The enemy wouldn't let a few losses stop them. But Cole and his crew had proven something important. They weren't going to give up either. "We'll stay hidden," Cole said. "Let them think they've won. We've still got a few tricks left." The crew worked quickly to prepare for the next wave. The human warship was fast and powerful, and Cole knew that as long as they had the element of surprise, they could win. The enemy was expecting a predictable battle, but the humans had proven they could outsmart them. It was a huge advantage. Meanwhile, on Raxar's flagship, frustration and anger boiled over. His fleet had been decimated, 2 retreats in one day. It was humiliating, and yet he couldn't deny it. The humans had beaten him. They had forced him to rethink everything he knew about warfare. "We cannot let this stand," Raxar growled, slamming his fist onto the armrest of his chair. "I want every ship in the fleet prepared to launch again. We will strike at dawn." His officers nodded, but the fear in their eyes was clear. They knew how devastating the humans had been, and they feared another loss would break the fleet's morale completely. Raxar turned to his second-in-command, a seasoned officer named Theron. "Prepare the fleet for a final strike," he ordered. "This is our last chance. If we do not defeat them now, we may never get another opportunity." On the human warship, Cole and his crew were also preparing for the final confrontation. The battle had shifted from a test of strength to a battle of wits. Both sides were hurt, but the humans were ready. They had learned from the enemy's tactics and were waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. "Captain," Anna said, her voice alert, "the enemy fleet is coming. They're making their final move." Cole's heart raced, but his face remained calm. "It's time," he said simply. "We'll give them everything we've got." The crew moved into action, running through their final checks. The human warship powered up its weapons, and the entire crew braced for impact. They knew the enemy was coming at full force, but the humans were not afraid. They had survived so much already, and now they had the confidence to finish the job. The enemy fleet came into view, this time much more cautious. Raxar's ships moved slowly, each one positioning itself to create a wall around the human warship. They had learned from their mistakes, but they still underestimated the humans. "Now," Cole shouted. The human warship darted forward, moving at full speed through the gaps between enemy ships. The first round of enemy fire missed completely. The human ship moved too quickly, too unpredictably. Then, with perfect timing, the human ship released a powerful barrage of energy blasts, striking one of the enemy ships directly in its vulnerable side. The explosion rocked the enemy fleet, sending shockwaves through space. The ship's shields collapsed, and then its hull was torn apart. The remaining ships scattered, trying to find a way to retaliate, but it was too late. The humans had already made their move. "We've taken down another one, Captain," Anna shouted, her voice filled with excitement. Cole's eyes were sharp as ever. "Keep moving. We're not done yet." The human ship moved like a ghost through the battlefield, avoiding enemy fire and striking with precision. Another enemy ship fell, and Raxar's forces began to fall apart. The remaining ships, confused and afraid, tried to regroup, but their morale had shattered. They had seen what the humans were capable of, and now they couldn't fight with the same confidence they had before. With one final push, the human ship fired another devastating blast, taking down a third enemy ship. The remaining enemy ships turned and fled. The battle was over. "Victory," Cole said quietly, his voice filled with a mix of relief and pride. The human crew cheered, knowing they had just won the most important battle of their lives. They had fought against overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. The enemy had been broken, and the humans had proven once again that they could never be underestimated. As the enemy fleet retreated into the distance, Cole turned to his crew with a smile. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Humanity will never back down. Not now, not ever."